This is my second documentary of the unexplained. My other video is on my playlist under my ET contact story. That was filmed by James Rink, and we shot that on location. That deals with a lot of the encounters that we've had over the years on this location where I have shot this video segment. And this one is going to deal with the Bigfoot phenomena. What inspired me to do this, I'm going to give credit to Les Shroud, even though he was not the one who discovered it. He did it through research, looking at what other researchers or investigators actually have been doing in the field with using trail cameras. These trail cameras, what they're doing is they're putting them out for Bigfoot and putting bait under them or in front of them, and they're using other forms of communication like stones or offering them a toy. I did all this. I've been doing this for decades, and I started seeing something. Actually, I didn't realize exactly. I believed it was mechanical failures on my cameras, because trail cameras, you can buy them for $80 to $500. Most people in the field usually pay about $100 to $200 for a trail cam. I've had 14 of them since the early 90s. I actually have a couple trail cams I still have left over from the early 90s that are homemade. We used to make them with a soldering gun. We used a motion detector like you use for home security, and I use a 35 millimeter instant camera, not instant camera, but a 35 millimeter film camera. And you would integrate that into a box. I'll show pictures of that later on in this video. But what this video is going to deal with is the aspect of Bigfoot or Sasquatch being able to cloak itself. I know a lot of people think of that as being a bunch of hooey. Well, I can tell you I've got probably at least 20,000, maybe 30,000 film and digital pictures over the decades of putting trail cameras out. The property that I have is located up in North Florida. It's called Nature's Coast. It's in the lower Swanee. And this property that that I go out to, and I go out there, I spend about 150 days a year in the swamp. And it is swampland. It's all swampland out there. And what I've encountered going out there, usually just on weekends, the most time I've ever spent out there was about 2 weeks. And that was building our dwelling out there. It's like it's like a glorified tree house of about 400, 500 square feet. And it's up on 11 foam poles. And so when after we built that, it was my first encounter that got me interested in, I guess you call high strangeness, if you want to use Linda Howe's term, which really completely blew my mind, because I've been hunting since I used to go out hunting when I was by myself, 8 years old, with a bow and arrow after rabbits. And I used to get let loose we used to go to Green Swamp. My brother would drop me off, and at the age of 12, and I used to hunt from sun up to sundown by myself. But in 1992, uh, we got the property around, it's family property, probably around 1986. And my first recollection of something that happened that was really strange that I could not explain. And, you spend enough time in the woods, you can explain every single sound you hear. If something's not right, you know it. Well, we're sitting on the porch of the cabin. It's about 10 feet off the ground. And my buddy Lenny, which was my neighbor at the time, in fact, he still works right down the street, we were sitting on the porch. And we're sitting there from about 5:30 p.m., and the event happened about 2 o'clock in the morning. And we just sat there, and we sat there with not turning any flashlights on. Anytime we talked, it was just a whisper. We didn't make any noise. I don't think we even got up in that amount of time. We were hunting for wild boar off on the porch. We're putting corn feed out there to lure the hogs in. And back then in '92, the flashlights we had were really primitive. You get those plastic ones for $1 or $2 at Walmart. Let me tell you something. Today I'm into flashlights. I got some of the highest technology flashlights from. You encounter enough things in the woods you can't explain. You don't go out in the woods anymore. There's no longer the idea that you're out there with just deer and hogs and turkeys. Because I can tell you, by the time you get done watching this video with the evidence that I've collected, just in one trip, I'm not going to count any of the other trips that I've made or any other photographic evidence that I have. I only had to make one trip and document this one. And I think I got evidence that will probably convince the most hardcore skeptics of this. I'm not going to say the interdimensional aspect of Bigfoot, but I believe he's got an ability to cloak himself. So anyways, we're sitting on the porch, and after all those hours, it was about 2:30 in the morning, and this is my first solid Bigfoot encounter. That just, after this, I was just changed. And we're sitting there, and all of a sudden, it's pitch black too. There's no moon that night, and it was pretty dark. I mean, you could just barely see the heavy forest off the porch. And the heavy forest started about 20 feet away. All of a sudden, we just heard a crack. And this crack, now this doesn't match anybody else's Bigfoot story, but then again, a lot of my stories don't. But I spent a lot of time in the woods, and I've known a lot of people who spend a lot of time in the woods. You talk to people who are my age or older, these guys are 80 years old. They have stories that they usually just don't tell anybody. You got to go out there in the field, and you got to talk to these people. We're sitting there on a porch, and I heard this crack. We both heard it. We're sitting next to each other in chairs. And then I heard another crack. We heard another crack. And every 3 seconds, it sounded like it was Arnold Schwarzenegger with a wooden Louisville slugger hitting a tree, a hardwood tree. And it wasn't more than probably 40 feet from us, 30, 35, 40 feet, right off the front of us. And this I'm going to say it's a Bigfoot. Now I know what it is, a physical Bigfoot. But this creature was hitting that tree so hard that we were just dumbfounded. Because back then, I really did not, in my mind, I believed that there's probably Bigfoots, but I did not think that you would find them in Florida. I was thinking that's like an out west thing, and very limited, maybe Alaska. But this creature hit that tree so hard, and I can tell you it went on for at least 30 minutes, if not longer. And about 15 minutes into it, we were just, still whispering. We turned a flashlight on, it was dead. Flashlight had been on in my pants pocket all day, so by the time I went to use it, I turned it on. It looked like, I'm not going to say we saw something, but if the flashlight was strong enough, I could identify it. But this is twice it's happened in my life. You turn the flashlight on, it's been on all day. I carry 3 flashlights with me now. If you go in the woods at nighttime, or you're going to go in the woods at all, there's a chance you're going to be out there at night, you need to carry extra flashlights, because things like that happen. You go out in the woods long enough, you're going to end up without a flashlight. And I did. I got lost out in the woods once without a flashlight, out in the swamp. So this cracking, this swacking of the tree, this is no long distance 2 knocks. Is it a woody woodpecker or is it a Bigfoot? This was up close and personal. This entity was smacking that tree so hard, he meant business. And what it was is, this creature's like moving through the woods at night stealthily. He's smelling things. You really couldn't probably get our scent because we're 10 feet off the ground. That's half the reason why deer hunters get up off the ground in their deer stands. Those stands you see up against the side of the tree, and they get up to the top, that's to keep the scent off the ground. It's also so you're when you're hunting, you're up above the animals, so you can move around a little bit, you're not going to get seen. It's also when you shoot your rifle, you're not going to kill somebody, because you're shooting a deer straight on. There's several reasons why people do that. We're sitting there, and I believe that this entity couldn't smell us. And I don't think he could smell us until he was right up on top of us. And I didn't hear him coming. We didn't hear him coming. This is back when I was in my mid-20s. I already had a lot of experience in the woods. I really went out in the woods a lot at that age. And Lenny's was experienced too. His dad was a policeman. He took him hunting a lot. He's very experienced in the woods. We're not going to be fooled. But at that point, I thought, what could this be? Could it be a trespasser? Even though our gate is 2 miles away down a dirt road, it's like a hunting sportsman's club, and you got to pay a yearly maintenance for all the roads to be maintained. But nobody ever, back then, even today, hardly anybody goes in there. You could be the only one in there in hundreds of thousands of acres. Well, this fence, which is big enough and is made out of iron pipe, you can keep an army tank out if you wanted to. It's a special key you got to use to open it. There's nobody's ever trespasses in there. There's signs everywhere when you get up to the asphalt where it ends. $1,000 fine if you get caught. So you could be in there all weekend and just not see anybody go down the dirt roads in there. And the dirt roads are single file. You got to pull over to let somebody over. It's desolate. This is more desolate than I think the Everglades. The Everglades has a lot of inhabitants down, unless you went down in the middle of it where you have to use an airboat. But this property here. You're going down wooded roads at 70 miles an hour for about 45 minutes, and you're going into the woods. And then I'm another 15 minutes up the road of complete, heavy forest. It's all, a lot of it, half of it up there is state managed preserves. So. And you pass a few trailers and stuff in there on the side of the road, but basically you're about 7 miles from a mailbox of just one person living. Nobody's going to get past that fence. You could walk in there, but you're not going to find our place back in there. And I've never seen a trespasser back in there. So there's no electric the fence is 2 miles from our property. There's no electric in there. So we're hearing this swacking of the tree. And after about 30 minutes, I made the decision to yell out. I said something to the order of, hey, trespasser, walk forward out of the woods or I'm going to open fire on you. Or I'm going to put a high-capacity magazine in here. I'm going to level the forest if you don't come out. Bluffing, I would never do that, but I was sure. So what else could it be but, it had to be a human. There's nothing else can make that noise in the woods. So it stopped. It was dead quiet. I mean, you couldn't hear crickets or anything. It was like, it was, when it's really quiet like that, you need to be aware because I think they call that the Oz effect. That's where, it's not the entity itself or the danger causing the silence. It's actually your subconscious mind blocking everything out. That's the idea behind that, or the theory, and I believe it's true. So it was dead quiet. I mean, you could hear a pin drop. And then after I said that, there is not a person on this planet that would not have walked 30 feet out of those woods with their hands up. Because I said it like I meant business. 3 seconds after that, started swacking a tree again. And it was hard. Over and over and over again. Eventually stopped. So that was the longest wood knocking that I don't think I've ever heard a story of anybody hearing more than a handful of knocks. But this just went on and on and on and on. And this creature, I think what it is I think it's rare that a Bigfoot would actually, who's sitting in the middle of a swamp, in the middle of nowhere, 10 feet off the ground at 2:30 in the morning. So I think we kind of caught him by surprise. So we got home the next day. All the way home, we're trying to figure out what in the hell was that? What could that possibly be? What animal could make that noise? So we went to Scotty's at the time, a lumber yard, and we bought 2 wood pine 2x4s, and we were cracking them together to see if we could replicate the sound, and we did. It was exactly the sound. Two white pine 2x4s cracking together. So then we're trying to come up with theories. What could it be? Could it be that a big 13-foot alligator went through a barbed wire fence and has a 2x4 wrapped around its tail and it's trying to shake it loose? Well, that's what I thought for a couple years after that. Then it just didn't. That was just a crazy. I told that story to somebody who's a woodsman. They're like, that's Bigfoot. That sent me on a quest. So I would say since that happened, that incident happened about 92. So I would say probably in about 93 or so, that's when I really started researching, and then I became an investigator. We have our own, and that, of course, that branched out into paranormal. So we've been for 14 years straight. We've flown different places in the United States, all over Florida, driven all over the states in the United States on this side and the east side. I've been to the most haunted locations in America. All the ones you see on TV, I've been there. And people call us all the time. Probably every other weekend we go out and do an investigation. So I pretty much, I'm pretty well invested in trying to solve the problem, the unknowns. So, and all this time, these trail cameras, back in the early 90s, I started buying these parts to make trail cameras, and you couldn't buy those in the store. So I was determined to get a photograph of this creature. Because then I started researching and finding out that there are stories of people who've seen Bigfoot in Florida, have encounters. And the internet was young back then, very young. And so I started interviewing Native Americans, the ones that live in reservations out in the woods. They're not, Chicago Indians that work at a deli. These people are, they're the Indians that live out in the they live out on reservations. My girlfriend of 14 years now, she's a Native American. She's a Chippewa, and I've interviewed a few of them, and a lot of them have their theories that, I believe that the wood knocking is communication, because I've had other events that happened after that led me to believe that. But I've had different theories where the Native American would say, "Oh, we know those stories are passed down through generations where Indian women used to pound corn next to a stream, and before they get all the bolls back, they're pounding all this corn into meal, and the Bigfoots would steal the corn before they got back, 1 or 2 bowls. So what the Bigfoots would do is start banging on the trees to let them know that they're hungry, to get out there and start, doing that. That's one theory. But I'm just going to go over some of the experiences I've had out in actually in Florida. I'll go over one more experience that I had. And this is all leading up to the experiment that we just finished up yesterday, actually, on June 5th, 2015. Uh, we about on May 14th, I believe it was, we brought uh, a camera trap up to three separate cameras up to our property, and I actually got a tip that to tweak my methods of getting Bigfoot or Sasquatch on a picture. And I'll go into where I got that tip from, which should kind of make this a little more interesting for you. But I watch Les Stroud on TV, and he uses one camera, or two cameras. That's the same thing I've been doing all these years. One camera, two cameras. And the other experience I had was when I was much younger. I was about 12 years old, and I was hunting by myself in Green Swamp with a rifle. And I walked way, way back in there. Green Swamp is about 45 minutes from, it's in Lakeland, Florida. About 45 minutes from our house. I've been in the same house for over 30 years. So my brother drops me off out there in the swamp. I go way out there, and I'm walking on this long story short, walking on this fire break, which is probably 1,500 yards long. And I'm pretty far back in the woods. A lot of hunters, whether they want to admit it or not, they don't go more than, 200 or 300 yards off the dirt road where their vehicle is. But I used to get out there, and I used to just walk way deep in there. So I'm probably an hour's walk back in the swamp, and I come across this fire break, which is all ground up mud. And this is not really an encounter, but what I saw was about size 18 feet, bare feet walking in the mud. Like something came out of the swamp. It's probably like the feeling of that mushy mud, and it walked for about 500 yards and then turned and went off into some pretty thick swamp back in there, black swamp. I laid my eyes on those tracks, and tell you that really, at the time, that was even before my major wood knocking up close and personal event in '92. This is a long time ago. I'm 50 years old now. But this is back when I was 12. Those tracks, they were barefoot tracks, and they were about 7 inches wide by about 18 inches. They were huge, and there was about size 9 feet next to it, both barefoot, Bigfoot, huge toes. So when I looked at that, even back then, until when the '90s were up and about till the mid '90s, most people about Bigfoot beliefs in Florida. Most people were still stuck on out west and the Patterson film. There's not a whole lot of talk until the internet came out. And I don't think I met anybody who believed that there'd be Bigfoot in Florida. But when I saw that, I thought it was just some kind of mutant, crazy, wild people living in the swamp. And they just don't have shoes. So, I mean, that's all I could come up with. It didn't even cross my mind that it was Bigfoot. But looking back on it now, it wasn't a hoax. These feet were just, they were... Yeah, they're very detailed. They weren't no flat pieces of wood or anyway. So, okay, we're going to go back. Okay, so this is in 1990. Now go forward to 1992. Now, have I ever seen Bigfoot? I think I have, and it was just recently, probably about 6 months ago. I was with one of my friends who's also a paranormal investigator. I'm going to go forward to one of my last ones here. That a lot of people think, oh, well, so you hear all these things, you see, you see these tracks, you hear these things, but you haven't seen it. Well, I saw something. Well, I'll tell you, it looked exactly like a Bigfoot. I mean, it was like 150 yards away, and I had I had an AR-15 with me with an ACOG scope on it, like a military scope. It's a 1-power magnification, and it's not really meant for bringing something really far away, looking up. It's made to just keep high quality optics, keep your eyeball trained on whatever you're looking at, so you don't wander off. Like a pair of binoculars, that's what they do. So I looked up, and I looked through my scope, and I saw this thing was. This is on our property up by Lower Swanee. This thing was so big. It was so big. It was just it's unimaginable. I mean, people say, "Oh, I see 10-foot Bigfoots," and people say, "Oh my God, that's ridiculous. How can something 10 foot tall, be out in the woods?" I can tell you, there's some pretty thick woods out there. If you get out and you start going, especially out in California, Florida's got them. There's places out there where people haven't taken steps since the Indians. This creature, I picked up my rifle and I saw what it looked like. It was a monster, and I would never shoot nothing like that. But it was a bipedal standing straight as board, standing straight up, and it looked like it was 10 foot tall. I mean, it had the widest legs, the widest chest I've ever saw, the widest arms, and I couldn't believe my eyes. First thing I want to do is I wanted to have Vince look through the scope, and when he looked through the scope, he said, "I didn't see anything." So I took my eyes off it for a second. I picked the scope back up and looked through it, and it was gone. There was nothing there that I saw. So it was looked like it was black with some graying in it. Not black, but it was between dark gray and black with some graying. So what did I see? I don't know. I looked at it for 2 seconds. I always want to get somebody else to see something, so I just immediately had him look at it, and that was time enough for it to leave. But how big was it? I would probably say it was 10 feet tall. I mean, it was like so. We've had other experiences out there. I've had experience probably every 6 months since the early '90s up there. I've had encounters, but mostly you get wood knocks out there, and these are not woodpeckers. I know what some of these woodpeckers, they can they do sound. They sound like a ball peen hammer hitting a tree, a hardwood tree, and it's pretty incredible the sound they can make. I've heard it a million times in my life. These are not woodpeckers. These are actually I believe they're communicating with each other. I just had a recent experience that was about probably 8 months ago. I was standing on the porch of their glorified treehouse out there, and it's 10 feet off the ground, and everybody's sleeping in the cabin. There was 3 other people in the cabin: Bonnie, my girlfriend, and Vince and Sarah. So it's about I think it's 3:36 in the morning. I'm always looking at my clock all the time, and I'm standing on the porch, and it's pitch black, and it's dead silent. And off to my right, down the stairs, off to my right, it wasn't probably 30 feet away, I heard what sounded to me like an owl screeching. But I've never heard an owl screech like this before. This owl, I hear owls all the time out there. They're pretty, all these vocalizations. This owl let out a scream, almost like a woman screaming. And it startled the hell out of me. After I got startled, I stood there and I listened, and it was quiet again. And I heard 2 wood knocks, 2 solid wood knocks, about, I would say, probably 100 yards in front of me off the porch. And I was like, whoa. I mean, it's just 2 knocks. Whack, whack. It's like he already had something in his hand ready to hit the tree with it. So I'm not a hardcore skeptic, but I always go to the least common denominator. What could it be? I'm thinking, oh, well, probably there's a lot of people out there, hunting for Bigfoot these days. So maybe it's another hunter, on some other piece of property. So I thought it was interesting. Well, 4 seconds later, 2 whacks behind the cabin at the same distance away, totally parallel with each other. I mean, totally adjacent, that way and that way. At that point, out of all the experiences that I've had, that was the one that sealed it for me. That this is, and I've heard lots of testimonies, people out there that hunt in that vicinity there. And every time I meet somebody, I always try to get on that topic of Bigfoot, or what do you see for UFOs around here? Have you ever had any high strangeness? And probably at least half the people have just amazing stories. But when I heard that, that's when I knew that there was no doubt in my mind that there's active Bigfoots out here on this property. And they are actually hunting, but they were communicating. I don't know what they thought that screech was. Maybe, I think probably I was such in the middle, I believe that the 2 Bigfoots thought it was the other one yelling for help. And I would never be able to replicate that sound. I wish I could. I mean, I don't think anybody could, but it was just the craziest screech. But that gave it away right there. I mean, you hear these knocks on TV and all that. Yeah, they probably are Bigfoots, but this was like, this was two of them. There's no way it could have been two people, not on where I come into my property, and then on the next dirt road, taking an hour to walk that way through the woods. There's no possible way that they would have been totally adjacent on my property. So that's when I was positive. Looking at Les Shrout, I've had now. Before I finish going to what Les Shrout on Survivor Man Bigfoot, his series that he did, I believe he got five pilot episodes out. I'm sure he's going to shoot some more. But the other experiences I've had were very numerous through the years. You're walking up the trail, it's a skinny trail going up to our stilt cabin, and you walk up there and the smell is just unbelievable. You walk like 3 trips to bring all the stuff up there from our vehicle, and he'd make his presence known with his smell. He'd be standing right off the trail, you wouldn't be able to see him, and then it's gone. Skunks can't do that. The skunk sprays, it's there. I've never seen a skunk out there or smelled one. But I've gone out there to the swamp by myself, left everybody in the cabin, walked out there, and did some vocalizations to see if I could prompt sometimes I'll do wood knocking myself to see if I can provoke a response with my video camera. And I've had what's called the whoomp, where it's a subsonic sound. And last time it happened was about 9 months ago. And I'm standing in the edge of the swamp, and it's half water in there and little islands, you walk through there, you're definitely going to leave some footprints somewhere, some kind of activity. And this is really what made me, after all this time of, reviewing all my digital evidence that I've had over the years, where I was thinking it's cameras malfunctioning and my bait coming up missing without catching anything in the frame. That whump hit me so hard that it vibrated the organs of my body. And I've heard people say that before, and I'm like, well, it's probably a bear doing a grunt. There's no bears out at my property. I know there was one out there along probably about 25 years ago. He didn't leave any tracks, but I knew it was a bear because he ripped something out, a feeder off my tree. I don't think anything else could have did that. But this oomph or whump, it sounded like if you were to take an old Volkswagen Beetle and push it out of a tree from about 15 feet up, that onto the ground. That's how, and be standing within 5 feet of it. That's how strong it was. It was totally amazing, and it sparked fear in me. I don't think I've ever, maybe a couple times I've drawn my handgun out there, 2 or 3 times, boar hunting. I unholstered my weapon, my handgun, and I pointed it forward and started walking backwards. I had my video, and the crazy thing about it, this is the crazy thing about this phenomena, is I had my video, my $1,300 high definition Sony, which is a consumer grade high end camera. I had it running, and I caught this on not video but the video audio, and this is like 4 or 5 times I remember in my life where I really got good evidence, and I'll turn right around and delete it. And I'm an investigator with paranormal, and we go out and we just, we've been on the 6 o'clock news for 2 years in a row, and these 10-minute, episodes for Fox News and I think it was NBC. Anyways, this is what we do. I mean, I spend 8 hours a day, other than my day job, 8 hours a day researching, investigating, trying to solve these mysteries. And for me to turn around and delete evidence, there's something to this whole aspect of we want to call it the Bigfoot phenomenon, where he's, say he's cloaked or interdimensional or whatever this entity is. I can tell you at this point, with 100% certainty that there's something else going on besides him being a physical creature, and I'm going to show you the evidence later on in this video that I collected this weekend. I think that will, any skeptic will look at that and say, wow, if you look at what Les Stroud, he's got a pretty good reputation on, and he come up with the same thing. When I saw that, the red light, the light went off in my head and told me that, me casually putting all these cameras out over the years, and I'm blaming my cameras for not coming up with whatever's taking my bait. And I got animals coming in and after. That camera can be out there for months, and you go to get the camera, and you see every other animal. You see butterflies trigger the camera, everything. But when it comes time for an apple to be taken, the apple just gone, vanishes right off the screen. And usually half the time it's accompanied by some kind of a crazy light show, like spears of light or white orbs, streaks of light, and they're like lights that you'd never see before. You can be a paranormal investigator all the time, and you could discount orbs all day long, but these are, why do you can have 600 pictures over 6 months of one of these high quality trail cameras running, and the moment that your bait disappears is when you have this light phenomena. And it's, again, I captured it this one time this weekend when I went to pick up my cameras. Been out there for a month. I put 3 cameras out. 3 cameras on a crossfire on one target area. And I think you agree that I have, it's going to show that it's not a camera mal. Now, they are camera malfunctions. I keep getting off target here, but while I'm on that, I'm going to go ahead and go with that. I'm going to say that this entity, whatever it is, has the ability to cloak itself. And not only can it cloak itself, but it can actually affect the electronics in these cameras, both physically and the insides of the camera. That would be really hard for a lot of people to swallow. But I can tell you that the times that we put cameras out there, it is the craziest things. The time before this weekend, when I picked up the cameras, we put bags of apples out there. We had 2 trail cameras out there. These trail cameras are the highest quality ones. They're $200 and $300 each, and they're modern. They're only, I bought mine last year, high definition. We go to pick it up, and one trail camera is switched off, physically switched off. The cover's locked with 2 snaps. And I told my buddy, I was like, you forgot to turn your camera on when I went to pick it up. So you're not going to have any evidence on yours. So I gave his camera back to him without looking at the SD card. I looked at my card, and this evidence is not going to be included in this video because it's on my laptop and it's a lot of work. But here is the apples coming up missing. But what you're seeing is the camera being triggered, and walking up to the cabin are these huge 16, 18-inch feet walking in the leaves, depressing, and it's leaving a depression, not one you can cast, but you can see 3 feet between the steps, walking up to the apples, and then the apples go away. Just vanish. There's nothing in the picture. But I'm actually looking at the ground depressing, and that's when I looked at that, and I was like, wait a minute, that's impossible. If it was a little 40, 30-pound hogs laying there depressing the ground, the camera would trigger it and pick it up and have it be on the photographic evidence on the card. But you see something making a beeline and going directly for the bag of apples, and all you see is the ground depressing. And you can see it frame by frame. The cameras set up the trigger every 2 seconds. It'll run for 2 seconds, take a picture. If something's still in there, it'll take a picture again. It'll wait 2 seconds. So, and I've got examples, tens of thousands of pictures with all these. A lot of them I deleted. Probably half of them I deleted. I still have them on various laptops over the years. But now that I use Apple products, it's a lot easier for me just to go ahead and shoot a video, and with a little mechanism I can pull the transfer the SD cards to the iPhone app. So this is why I decided to make this video, and I'm going to give the credit to Les Stroud for coming on TV and doing the research and talking about other people having these mechanical failures that they blame on their cameras. And now even Les Stroud, he's had it 2 or 3 times. He's got a camera on an apple and it just comes up missing. He goes for a hike, comes back later in the day, and the apple's gone. Bird lands. Same things I've been dealing with. In this video, I'm going to show you what happened with 3 cameras. 3 cameras, I'm going to tell you at 39 minutes in this video, is the key. This is what Les Stroud needs to do to get his evidence. And if I could probably do it one more time and get an actual physical photo of a Bigfoot, but I wanted to get this out first with the cloaking aspect of it. I'm going to continue to do it with 3 cameras. Now, how did I come up with 3 cameras? The idea of 3 cameras. Why would you put 3 cameras on 1 bag of apples on a bait? Well, this entity, call it Bigfoot, whatever it is, has the ability to cloak itself. And it's not able to defeat. Just say it's got, just like the Native American Indians will tell you if you ever interview them. Oh, they could be standing right next to you and you wouldn't know it. And you think, oh, well, he's a wacky Indian. That's impossible. 800-pound creature going to be standing next to you and you're not going to know it. Well, I can tell you at this point in the game, I can tell you that these Indians know what they're talking about. They, you got to give somebody credit when they live out on the reservation. They go out there, they hunt for their food with it, and they get these stories handed down, and they get verification themselves. Big stones being thrown at their canoes. Nothing in the woods throws a rock in North America. So 3 cameras is what you need to defeat this entity, because when he enters the scene, I don't care how much magic he's got, where he uses magic to get away or cloak, he's not going to every time be able to defeat 3 cameras. How did I find that out? Well, being a paranormal investigator, we are in constant communication with the spirit world. Now, a lot of people think, oh my God, he's talking to ghosts, please. Well, in order to be even, if you're going to be watching this video, this is some pretty deep stuff, because I used to be the same way. I was probably one of the biggest skeptics when I was in my 20s. I didn't believe in alien abduction. I believe, there's probably some UFOs out there, but I watch these people on TV and I think, my God, these people, they need to, change their medication or something. And, a lot of people were like that back then. But I can tell you, for the things that I've run into in my life, one thing leads to another, and being a paranormal investigator, I don't discount the story of what anybody's saying. If there's a group of people out there talking about something, then you can believe that where there's smoke, there's fire, because there are everything that I've ever investigated, there's always turns out to be truth in it, and just about everything's possible. People aren't, all these thousands of people are seeing Bigfoot creatures. Well, not one of them are reporting a pink elephant. And I've never taken anybody out, and I've taken a lot of people out into the forest. I've never had somebody say, hey, look, there goes a Bigfoot. And it was a bear. Obviously a bear, I see a bear. Whenever a bear crosses the road, I don't care if it's on 2 feet. I don't care if it's a 600-pound Florida bear or a baby cub. I never hear a single person that's ever with me, and I've taken a lot of people who've never been out in the forest before, any kind of type of a forest or hunting. I've never had anybody say, oh, there goes a Bigfoot. A bear is a bear. So what I'm getting to at here is, don't discount any stories that you hear from somebody who's been there, done that. I do this for even when I got a work day, I'm doing from 6 to 13 hours a day up to 4 o'clock in the morning. I've been doing it for decades. So there's no aspect of the paranormal world that I don't know about. Now, communicating with spirits, how do you do that? Well, you do it with you can do it with divination, which is you can use a spirit board or Ouija board. You can use a dowsing, a pendulum. Pendulums, I believe, are linked to your, connected to your higher self, your subconscious, which I believe knows everything. Your subconscious knows the answers to everything. Which they say you tap into Akashic records. I believe your subconscious is the Akashic. Um, so I've been around spirit boards since the early '70s. Never had any negative experiences with it. A lot of people sitting back there in your chair at home going, "Oh my God, he's using a Ouija board." You know, that's trouble. Well, I can tell you, any stories that you hear about spirit boards, anything negative, use two ways to use anything. You can use a telephone for pranking calls, or you can use it for calling your mother. You can use anything for good or bad. That's just the way this world is. Anybody's got a negative story about a spirit board is because they used it in a wrong way. And everything in this universe is vibrates. Everything is energy. Energy vibrates. Everything vibrates as a frequency. And everything, your thoughts or deeds, and anything you say, verbally vibrate and say, whatever you do, attracts energy to you. So have you ever heard somebody talk about a ghost story and their house is haunted? I can't tell you how many times I went to somebody's house, come to find out whoever's haunting them is attracted to them because of that ghost is just like them. So the ghost part is attracted to the physical part. So when you're using a spirit board, and a lot of people sitting there thinking right now, like, oh, that's all a bunch of hooey. They're either thinking it's either negative or it's a bunch of hooey. Well, I've seen a lot of people use spirit boards before. I've never used one myself and had any luck with it, but I've seen people use them, but my jury's always been out on that because I haven't actually sat there and used it. Well, it wasn't too long ago, a couple years ago, that I used them off and on. A couple years ago, we went to a paranormal investigation, and they were using another person there as an investigator was using a spirit board, and I joined in. When I joined in, I made contact with the other side. Within 60 minutes, we solved the double murder inside of a family that was related to the person using the board. And I can tell you right now that planchette was not being moved by that other person. That other person's not a good speller. I'm not a good speller. This person was whizzing through them letters. Anyways, long story short, everything spelled out. The person on the other side of me didn't know what spelling. She wasn't even looking at the board half the time. I certainly wasn't fudging it. So from that point on, I incorporated the board. I did a lot of research on it, and then found out that all these stories you hear about spirit boards are either by somebody who's writing a book that's negative, like, say I found a spirit board under the bed and had, and right next to it was mason jars with black crows in them. Well, when you pick up that stuff and you take a spirit board, a Ouija board, and it's got negative connotations all over the back of it, and obviously negative items that were used for conjuring negativity, well, then you continue to conjure negative stuff with it. Don't blame the spirit board or the spirit world or our ancestors up there who want to make contact, because a spirit board is nothing but a communication tool. It's an extension of yourself. So I've used one quite often in the last couple years, and I probably did about 50 sessions, long sessions, and I've talked to everybody in my ancestry. There's some negative things that poke through and try to talk to you. You just gotta put the board up. It's like anything else. You go out and you take a pull out of your driveway. 30% of the people out there would probably kill you for your wallet. They say 85. Every person by the time they die passed, I believe, 85 people that are serial murderers in their lifetime. So from what I gathered from investigating the spirit world, is you're pretty much the same person when you die as you were alive. There is no grand change. Some people who are very high vibrational life, when they get on the other side, they are able to be very well connected on the other side. They have abilities. They have abilities to tap into all the information that has ever been known, and by any mankind, civilizations gone past. We had higher technology. If they can't, they're tapping into it somehow by the way the consciousness works on the other side. Some spirits you talk to, all they're interested in is my family okay? I love you. You ask them technical questions about the other side, you're not going to really get much of a response by it. Like at my mother, I talked to my mother on a spirit board, and there's nothing, she doesn't really have anything. She doesn't have anything really grand to say. Does anything different than she was a mother of 5 kids, and that's what she was. She was a mother, so she's basically the same person on the other side. She's concerned about all of us. Get along, this and that. I love you, goodbye. But I have now, over the last couple of years, I have 2 contacts using a spirit board. That one of them is, her name is Gina, and the other one's Veronica. My friend exclusively uses Veronica, and I use her sometimes. And he uses Gina, and I use Gina too. So when you look at the spirit board, this is where I got my tips from on how to get a photographic evidence of Bigfoot. Because I was pretty much at my wit's end. It's getting expensive driving up to a piece of land that's, you got to drive 300 miles round trip, and gas ain't cheap, and you're spending $500 to go place cameras. Well, then you see Les Shroud on his cable show, and he's having these problems, and there's got to be a way to get around it. I use what I've learned, which is spiritual contact, and I can put a spirit board down and dial up anybody right there and get answers. And you need to, when you look at the spirit board, the Ouija board, you need to look at the elite. The elite pretty much manages us like cattle. They don't want you using a spirit board. You get all the answers you want, as long as you don't make deals or contracts with negative entities on the other side. Nothing is going to happen to you. I've been around them for over 40 years. I started using my first one when I was 7 years old, and never had anything negative. Had a blessed life my whole life. My whole family's been blessed. They don't want you to use a spirit. They don't want you to be contacting spirits with a voice recorder or an old reel-to-reel recorder like it was back in the early 70s. A lot of people don't realize it, but there's a book that was in print. It's called Voices on the Tape. I think it was written in 1974, and that's when the Vatican, actually the scientists of the Vatican, which is quite a few of them, and they went through and they investigated electronic voice phenomenon, and they actually showed they were going to prove it that it was bogus. So the higher level members in the Vatican actually got into what is called a Faraday cage, and Dr. Faraday was part of that demonstration also. They actually went into a Faraday cage, and Dr. Faraday saying, "Oh, you're just getting interference from, frequency signals from broadcasts, and that's why it's ending up on your in your tape." And so they actually proved that was a bunch of hooey. They got into the Faraday cage, and these priests with the Vatican were actually hearing voices from their grandmother telling how much they love them on the EVPs inside of a Faraday cage. So that pretty much blew that out of the water. So they actually made a hardcover book that used to be available in the libraries. It's out of print now, but it's called Voices on the Tape. But that was, you look at these high named PhDs, a lot of times, in my opinion, they are sent out on a mission to destroy knowledge. They don't want you using a spirit board. You can find out just about anything you want that's hidden from you by the cattle managers, and they don't want that. So in 1974, they released the movie, which, the elite are all connected with Hollywood. They're all together. They're all, rubbing elbows together. They're all the same clan. And they put that movie out called The Exorcist. And after that everybody during the parties of the 70s were taking spirit boards out. That was the last thing at a party, sometimes the first thing to come out at a party. Everybody used a spirit board back in the 70s. Nobody ever had any negative stories. And at that point, probably already in use for 80 years in America. and nobody ever heard of any bad experiences. So after that, it pretty much fizzled out and it kind of became taboo. Now it's kind of died off. A lot of the younger people today have never even seen the movie The Exorcist that had a spirit board in there that possessed somebody, supposedly. Now they released a movie called Ouija. And so now the young people today are look at that in negative light. So it's all about conditioning. And that's all I'm going to say about that. So anyways, so I went through my friend. His name is, I've never met him before, but he's a good friend of mine. And he's got a YouTube channel called, his name on there is Ryan Espich. I believe it's Espich. And he does exclusively, he does spirit board work, and he is actually, I'm using him for doing my work because I can't use a spirit board by myself. A lot of people can't. If you can't use a spirit board by yourself, it's because what we determine is your blocked channel. That means your spirit guides don't want you using it for some reason. Probably because you ask too many questions. So that's what my idea is. I can get them blocked, and we found out how to do that. But you can use a spirit board with a male and female very easy. If you've never been able to use one, you go up to Toys R Us and pay $25, buy a Parker Brothers, sit down with a female energy, a female as the second player on there, and you will make contact. If you don't make contact, then there's a reason why. Your guides are trying to keep somebody from coming through its negative. Your guides are always there, always trying to help you. So anybody's a skeptic say it doesn't work. That's because they don't understand how the rules work on the other side and how we're being protected. You're always your guides are always guiding you through life and protecting you as you go along. I can tell you through all these decades of research, that's a fact. So I use my friend Ryan. It's easier just to email him questions. He's a great guy, and he's an open channel. So that means that when he uses a spirit board, he doesn't need anybody else. Me, I got to say, hey, come on over. Let's use the spirit board. Oh, I don't want to do that tonight. It's draining. It is draining for a lot of people. When you connect with spirits, if your house is haunted, your spiritual energy is run down all the time, especially if it's not a high vibrational spirits. If it's just a house ghost, every house has house ghosts in there. Whether you believe it or not, your house has ghosts in it. Most houses have between 3 and 7 spirits in them. And if you're walking around tired all the time and sick, well, that could be the reason why. Ryan, Ryan, he's an open channel. So he can sit down and within 6 seconds, he's got his contacts, his guides talking to him on the board. So his contact is Veronica, which is his grandmother. And his grandmother is a very high vibrational spirit. She has access to all the hidden information on the other side. So I've been sending my questions in to him for the last 30, 40 sessions, and I've solved a lot of the puzzles in my life. I've had extraterrestrial experiences. My other video on my playlist called My E.T. Story. That's about a fourth of my story that's happened to me in my lifetime. But that's a whole separate topic. But all the pieces of the puzzle that I could never solve, I just send an email to Ryan, or I get our spirit board out, and I've gotten my answers to my spirit board and his board, and the answers every single time make perfect sense. If they don't make sense right away, the next day when you think about it, wow, that's what happened. That's what the answer is. So I asked him, I said, why don't you ask Veronica, what is the answer to getting evidence of Bigfoot? I'm to the point in my life where, I don't really care about, I don't want to write a book or go on TV or, make money off of it. I'm just doing information on my channel and talking to people so you can go out there and do the things that you want to do and get this evidence. So we can all get this information and share it. So she said, this is her words. You can go on there and look at the session. I believe it might be session 23. It was done about a month ago. Maybe a month and a half ago. Her words were, they're not exact, but this is in so many words, when she came through, and you may not agree with this, if you're a Bigfoot enthusiast, this has got everybody divided in half. You either think he's human, ancient human, or he's an ape. I've been flip-flopping back and forth over the years. I think he's actually, is a primitive ape, and he's got human DNA. So when they test the DNA, it's so close to human DNA, they think it's contaminated. And if you read the 5-volume series of the raw material, I've read these books so many times, I've actually wore out almost 3 sets. There's 5 volumes. And in here, these were channeled back in, spiritually channeled, actually from Ra, which is an entity. I believe he was one of the Anunnakis that came here 500,000 years ago. They talk about Bigfoot in here. This is one guy was a PhD, the other guy was, I believe, an aircraft pilot, and the other woman was just an investigator. At 10 years, she was able to start channeling. The 3 of them got this information, and one of the questions, and all you get is in the back is all. In the appendix, you can look up all the mysteries of life, and they've asked almost every question you can think of. They didn't really heavily expand on a lot of it, but they certainly covered Bigfoot. And so I got Veronica to say, her words were, now in here, this talks about Bigfoot being a human. That's why I picked this up. Humans, they are held in reserve. They are second density. That's the word they use. Second density, and they are actually more resilient to if a nuclear catastrophe happened, if we all blew each other up. They are deposited all over the world, and the species that are in the continent match the DNA of the citizens that live there. Now, this is 2015. They didn't really, if you look at that, if you watch a lot of these investigations on television and cable and read books and listen to testimony, these people are running into Bigfoots are pretty much comparatively the same size as the people who live in that country. But in North America, we supposedly, according to this book, we have 3 different types. And I've had experience with all 3 types. I haven't told you all my Bigfoot experiences. I found tracks on our land that, it's three-toed Bigfoot where it looked like 3, 6-inch bananas, fanned out. One time I shot a hog and I dragged it off 30 feet off the trail. I didn't take 15 steps from that 150-pound dressed hog, and this Bigfoot jumped on it and started breaking every bone in its carcass. I don't know if it's trying to prove a point or let me know it's there. That's another story. I could sit here for an hour and tell stories about what I've run into. But that is the most frightening encounter I've ever had. I don't know what the message was, but he just totally devastated that carcass. He was standing there watching me while I cleaned it. So, anyways, Veronica, when you talk to her on a spirit board, she says that Bigfoot is an ape. She goes, it's an old ape. She goes, it's an ancient being. It's been around for a long time. Okay, so that's what it says here, except the long time part. And basically, she said that if you've been around that long, you would know tricks too. She said the word tricks. So it matches what it says in this book. These books were written back in the mid-'70s. Back in the mid-'70s, most people, the only thing they knew about Bigfoot was the Patterson film you saw at the drive-in back in I think it was 75. But the average person didn't know anything more than that about Bigfoot. So for them to come up with the details that are in this book, and I agree with all the information, there's 2 or 3 pages on Bigfoot. I had never found anything in this book. This has stood the test of time for decades. I've been reading these books for about 12 years, and I've never opened up a page and thought, they just proved that wrong. Scientists proved that wrong last year. It's actually every other page, whoa, they just released a study on that. They couldn't have known that back in 75, and it'll blow your mind. So out of all the information out there that has to do with channeling, this is the only one I trust, really. as far as channeling goes. Anyways, that's just one aspect of spirituality, to get answers. But Veronica said, she said, and she didn't even know what I was doing all these years with my trail cams. She said, try putting up 3 of your cameras, your camera traps. You need 3 of them. That's what you need to defeat Bigfoot, because he's got the ability to cloak. So I thought that was pretty interesting that she would say that, because, when I go to pick up my cameras, well, I'm in a pretty foul mood, because every time I pick them up, I spend all this money and this effort and time and the weekend off, 3 days off to go get these cameras, and I'll be damned, one of the cameras ain't working, switched off, or SD card popped out halfway, or SD card completely erased and won't work in anything else. Or the batteries are completely drained. The other camera's working, but that one malfunctioned. And it malfunctioned just at the right time where I want to need it. Well, the 3 cameras, later on in this video, I'm going to show you the evidence where over a little over a month's time, I got 1,600 pictures on one trail camera, and then it's crossed over to the next camera, so I am using these cameras, like Veronica said, you need to angle the cameras so that they are angled so that they're all hitting the target, and I put the bait in a crossfire in the middle. So one camera triggered 1,612 times, and the next one triggered 52 times. The next one triggered 156 times. Now, that would be kind of odd, since they're all basically the same height off the ground, within a foot. They're all pretty much facing the targeted zone with the 3 bags of apples. Actually, I think I had 4 bags of apples there. And a gifted toy, a little rubber Big Bird toy that you're going to see pictures of. And I put a piece of paper on the ground with a communication little thing I sketched up while I was there, quick, a picture of what the Bigfoot looks like, and a human. And I just wrote the word hi and put some colored stones, some really pretty stones around there, different polished stones, just to see what kind of reaction I would get. And I'm going to go into that in this video, what happened. It's pretty interesting. So these cameras are, and I've got 14 cameras over the years, all the way from, primitive ones you built yourself to the newest high technology cameras now. You can pay $550 for a trail camera. You don't need to spend that much money. The last camera I just bought was a month and a half ago. And I bought a Bushnell, which is about $140. And it outperformed all the ones that cost $500 or more. It'll trigger up to 80 feet away in the total darkness and illuminate in the total darkness of what it is with an infrared flash. So in other words, at nighttime, when that infrared flash goes off, you can't see any light. There's no visible light. But everything is in black and white at nighttime, and it's illuminated. The other 2 cameras I got are probably a couple years old. They're also high definition. Those are a little bit more expensive. They're about $300. But no, these are sister cameras. One is a black flash Moultrie. The other one is a standard flash Moultrie. The black flash has a lens cover over the IR little bulbs, and if a human is walking through, or actually it's made for animals, mostly deer, supposedly that little warm glow of the flash going off, animals can see that. Just about every picture you take of a deer, he's looking at that camera. The first picture goes off, when that thing glows, the little warm glow of those little bulbs, they are so sensitive to anything in the woods. He's already looking at it when it's going off. It only takes a quarter of a second for it to illuminate, and he's looking at it already. So they make a black flash. Black flash is kind of expensive. That camera I paid like $300, a little over $300 for, if not probably $350. I don't think it's needed, because once the picture goes off, it's too late. You got them. But black flash is good for catching, like if you want to get a human walking down a trail and you don't want him to see your glow of your camera going off, and then he'll take your camera. So for that type of a scenario, you want to have a black flash, because when that goes off, there is nothing. You can't see anything. It's black. So at nighttime, it's totally dark. When that goes off, there is no warm glow of that little tray of bulbs on that camera, on that box. So I invested in that. So I wanted to make sure I had 3 really modern cameras to do this experiment with. And the Bushnell, which is the one that's got the longest trigger mechanism, is 80 feet. I put that the furthest away. So I actually triangulated the cameras, just like Veronica told me to. I followed her advice to a T. And I pretty much got the evidence that I always get. Before, I didn't really call it evidence. I thought it was malfunctions. But what I got I believe, will convince people to look at it, convince people like investigators like Les Schraub when he's going out in the forest. You need to use 3 cameras. They can't defeat all 3. If they do, they can't do it for very long. So what Veronica also told me on the Spirit Veronica on the other side, she said it 3 times because you need to be patient. Patient is the key. Once you get your 3 cameras up, be patient. So if you want to do what I'm doing and duplicate this, you can probably just go to, I believe Walmart's got them, the Bushnell trail cameras. I think they're about $130, $150 there. You get 3 of those, set your timer up for a 2-second delay, put a 32 gig memory card in there, so you got plenty of power, and you got batteries. These cameras I believe will run for about a year on a set of batteries. And then triangulate it. And you want to use red apples. Red apples is the most favored one out of the Bigfoots, if that's what's taking these. I've used green apples, oranges, and all that. The first ones I go for are the red apples. Just like yesterday when I went to pick up my evidence, you'll see in the pictures the first thing he started going for was that red apples, and that bag was emptied out first. And where do you see what I got on there? If I was a skeptic, I was looking at that, I would be going, holy cow, that's pretty unexplainable. I mean, you can have a malfunction on one camera, the other camera would, not quite catch it, but I have the typical light phenomenon that is coming up that on the one camera, 1,600 photographs and only 2 frames, you see this crazy light show, which is really interesting when you look at it. And then the next picture it takes, the apples are gone. So I used to look at that, and in the older trail cameras that came, not in the 90s, but not today, but they were pretty crappy. There's a span of 10 years there where from like 2003 to 2005, it'd be about 1998 to about 2007. Trail cameras were really not that good. They were big and bulky. You get about 2 reliable weeks, I think, before the batteries went dead. They just inherently were terrible. The pictures were terrible. The trigger time, when you walk into the field of view, the animal, you'd see its ass coming out the other side of the picture frame before the camera ever triggered. So if it's more than 30 feet away, it wouldn't go off. So today's trail cameras, they've come a long way. And I think we are probably, if you follow my technique that I got, and I'm not taking credit for it. Veronica gave me the technique, watching Les Shroud on TV, on cable, and seeing him going through the same thing I've been going through. That motivated me to get a new camera to add to my 2 of my higher tech ones I got, and go out there and go to the place where I know this is happening. And I was sure I was going to walk away with a picture of Bigfoot, but you'll see what I got. It's coming up. And so I'm going to give the credit to those 2 people, one in the spiritual world, Les Shroud, and I'm bringing a message to you that you can use maybe 4 cameras, but you need at least 3 trail cameras, and I would bet you within the next I would say within the next 6 months, somebody's going to have some high definition photography of a Bigfoot. But there's also some other factors here that I think that this being has the capability of doing. Going back to what my friend did when we did I didn't finish that story before. I just completed this experiment that took a month. Before that, we put a bag of apples out. He brought his trail camera, which I told you is a Highline one. It's a Moultrie, different model, nice one, about $200. And I got one of my Black Flash, $350 camera. And I told you in the earlier story, his camera was switched off. Mine malfunctioned, but it did get the footprints walking up the feet depressions. His camera was literally switched off when we opened the cover. So like I said before, I was like, bitching him out. I was like, damn, you didn't even turn your camera on. How are you supposed to get any pictures? I was like, well, how unfortunate. Well, he gives me a call like a week later, and he's like, Eric, I just put the SD card on my computer. I have like 14 pictures of that spot right there. It's not hitting a bag of apples, but it's the tree, it's that spot, and that card is right where I put it. That camera was actually on. So something actually flipped that switch in there. Now, you're probably thinking, if you're not really, 100% invested into the whole high strangeness world of what's happening in this planet, there are phenomenons out there that you can go out there and, look at. There's a place called the Skinwalker Ranch. If you look at that, they actually had, now that's not just some homeowners talking about experiences they had, but MUFON actually investigated that. Bonnie, my girlfriend, used to be a MUFON. She was a state section director for a couple years. So MUFON, they trained their people. And she debunked 99% of the things that came in, the reports. But MUFON did an investigation of the Skinwalker Ranch. I think you have to buy the DVDs. I have them, but the things that they talked about that they encountered are the things that a lot of things I've seen and encountered being out in the swamps, in the forest. I mean, I can make 10 videos that are 5 hours long each, and I can tell you all the stories of what happened. I got one that's 2.3 hours long on my playlist. Again, it's called My E.T. Story. A lot of that did not make it into the final cut, but it gives a general idea of what's going on. And then you'll notice in my playlist on that video, if you want to go into that after this, after that, you'll see where we started using a spirit board to answer the questions about some of the extraterrestrial experiences I've had. And it's a continued story, and even to this day, I'm adding new sessions under there. So now, you're not going to get the answers in this world, in our reality here, to our cloaked Bigfoot phenomenon, extraterrestrials. This is something that's been hidden from us for probably thousands of years. We're going to need some help. So I'm getting help from the spirit world, from contacts that I trust on the other side, that have steered me right so far. And if you don't want to do it yourself, if you want to move forward with this and get the answers, you can go on to Ryan's channel. I'm going to put the picture of his YouTube channel later on in this video, so you can go there. You can even ask him questions about Bigfoot. And Veronica, his contact, is all he talks to. They actually have it's an encrypted session where she's got to give him codes before they'll talk. That way he knows he's talking to who he's talking to. And so that's about all I'm going to say, and that has to do with how I arrived to this time in my research and investigating. And it's probably going to be another hour in this video, and I'm going to try, I'm not an expert video maker, so I'm going to try to put it together so it's kind of interesting. It's not scripted. You're going to see us driving out to the location, installing the trail cameras on location, driving down the 2-mile dirt road past the fence. You'll see how desolate it is. You'll see us walking back in there. I believe it was 2:30 in the morning. And we set up. It took about 30 minutes to set everything up. We stopped at Walmart on the way up. We bought all the apples and the toy. And so once we set everything up, we hiked back to our home base cabin, which is in that swamp. And the next morning, we went out and we checked everything, make sure it was all right, and we left. Then we came back, which was June 5th, yesterday, was when we retrieved everything. And I'm going to show you the evidence. I'm not going to show you all, 2,000 photographs between the 3 cameras. I'm going to show you a few photographs before and probably a few photographs after. So you're going to see what the normal situation was until the moment where whatever this energy comes in and descends on this bait and started removing these apples little by little. You're going to be like, wow, that is not a bug going across. I can tell you right now, there's no bugs going across the screen of this camera because, and this one camera is 1,600 photographs and there is no malfunctions until the apples vanish. And then it's happening on the other cameras too. To me, that's all the proof I need. I mean, I certainly want to duplicate this again now that I know that it's not my camera equipment. Yeah, it probably is affecting my cameras. Everybody else is getting these pictures called blob squatches where they're not, nobody get a damn photograph of Bigfoot. The only thing that really exists of Bigfoot that's clear is the Patterson film. But there's probably a reason for that. You got a 16 millimeter camera. It's a completely mechanical camera. I have some of those old cameras made in Germany. You got to wind them up. There's not electric contact in the whole camera. If you're filming something that is able to cloak and affect electronics with some kind of ancient knowledge it possesses inherently or whatever's going on, then the Patterson film is probably the last time we'll ever see a real a real video, or actually a movie of it, because now everything is electronic. And I can tell you right now, whatever this entity is able to do, he's able to not only affect the cameras physically, he's able to go in there and defeat it electronically, and he's able to somehow bend light or when I get into the next segment of the video, I'm going to I'll talk about that aspect of it, so I don't want to repeat myself. But he's got some kind of ability that, actually, now that I'm really looking at it, and on the way home yesterday, I had a lot of time to think about it. Some of the things I've seen before in the swamps, like the Bigfoot that attacked that hog, and it was the most horrific thing I've ever heard in my life. I mean, and then he walked up and down my staircase all night long. I had to barricade the staircase. There's a lot of stories that's happened in my past. That's got me kind of freaked out. And I do not hunt anymore by myself. I used to go out at 4 o'clock in the morning with my rifle and go get in my deer stand, walk 1/4 mile out in the swamps and not even think nothing of it. Walk through the woods with no light or just a little red pen light. I'll be damned if I'm ever going to do that again. And a lot of people make fun of me like, oh, there's nothing out there but hog and deer. Well, they don't do this they don't do this all day long. I do this all day long, and I'm reading all this testimony from people who are, pillars of society. These are, I got people that I know personally that are the most straight up gentlemen you'll ever meet. I mean, these guys are hard working son of a bitches their whole life. Maybe 70 years old, working with their hands. They look like they're 45 years old. They don't do any kind of hoaxing. They're no bullshit kind of people. You get them, you get them drink a couple beers and you get a story out of them that, it'd make your skin crawl. Or they just won't tell you anything at all. and you'll hear from somebody else say, "Yeah, I've heard his stories, but he don't tell stories. He's not going to tell any stories. He's over that." But the testimonies I've heard about things that you can encounter out in the swamps and the forests. Before I turn this off and you go into the video, which is coming up, when you get done with this video, go ahead and look at the missing 411 phenomenon, and you just type that in YouTube or buy his 3 books. It's a retired police officer who's been investigating it. The missing 411 is about unexplained missing people in North America. And there's like 40 locations in North America where there's clusters of missing people that, yeah, people go into the national forest all the time and they come up missing. And, yeah, you can get lost and die of exposure. You can be eaten by animals. But the stories behind these that are investigated, like they'll find, if they do find a body, they'll find every bone in the body broken. And they'll say, the authorities will say they fell off a cliff. Well, when it's actually getting investigated by David Pallades, he's the retired police that wrote these books. He come to find out that, you know, the rock that they fell off is only 4 feet tall. So there's some kind of and that happens more often than not. And you look at the map, missing 411, you look at that and Google it. There is definitely something going on where there is either, I think it's a mixture of, I think it's a combination of a few things I won't get into, but I have my own theory on it. David won't put out his own theory on it. He's leaving you to decide what's going on. But there's a lot of things that we don't, that is hidden from us in this world. And while I don't really have probably, you know, this is my notes right here. These are the things in this book right here would blow your mind. I mean, this folder. This I got file cabinet fills, but this represents 1 year's work here. And the stuff in here, I mean, if some people would sit down and read this, I mean, it was like, nobody knows this stuff. But I go through avenues to get that where, you know, that a lot of people don't, and I start combining everything what I know. And there's something that's hidden out there that, I mean, if you look at the missing 411, then you look at my video that I got, my ET story on my playlist, and you start doing some research and start listening to some of these Native Americans talk about, even Amy Allen, you look at her on the cable show, and what's that show called? I can't remember her show, but you know, she's a straight up a psychic, and she's got a gold badge detective who's retired, and they put their little their findings together, and the things that she sees and comes up with is exactly what the homeowners see. And I'll tell you, we share this world with monsters. I mean, they may not all be bad, but there's something out there that you know, I'm going to say the same thing the American Indians say. You know, they could be standing right next to you and you wouldn't know it. You know, I'll probably make another video with other stories that I have about it. But what I wanted you to do is, the purpose of this video, which has already gone into 1 hour and 27 minutes, is I just want to let you know, lead you up to my experiences and with trail cameras and Bigfoot, and exclusively this one 30-day period with one setting of 3 cameras, and my instruction on how to get your own evidence so that you're not out there spinning your wheels like I've been doing, which, you know, that's the only way you can really be a good investigator, is put your information together. I got my information from Veronica on the other side. I, you know, tuned in to Les Shroud. You know, he did his research. You can respect him. I mean, he goes out and you know, he survives in forests in some of the worst places in the country, in the world, and he's got a no bones about it approach to it, and he is coming up with what I found. When I saw that, you know, that was like, wow. I've been exclusively blaming 100% of this on equipment failure, and it's not equipment failure. It's it's an ability to cloak, and then you got to think about, if you're out in the woods by yourself, you're out in state parks or you're out in some of these swamps and you're hunting. You got to think about, if something can cloak like that, that means you could be standing right next to you and you wouldn't know it. So, but that's all I'm going to say. And leave your comments, subscribe to my channel, leave your comments on the video. I'd love to hear from everybody. Okay, I got a bag of apples hung, and I got 3 bananas. They're green apples, some red apples, and a power bar, crunchy coconut, and probably not something that's his favorite, a rubber duck, but big bird. So he should be fascinated with those eyes. And I should probably get a gift in return for that. And a little communication message here. Hello, hi. And some stones. Not exactly what I've been doing all along, but a couple potatoes on the ground. So we're going to see how everything is, and that's how everything is set up. And I got a broken apple here and on the ground, so the scent will track them. Any more fruit? I thought we had 3. Oh, there's another bag right there, right behind Alex. And that one's even higher. I would say that's what, 8 feet?
Yeah.
8 feet off the ground?
8 feet.
This one here is 7. I'm 6'3". That one's about 7.5. A deer could probably get that, but if a deer gets these, that's great. I don't think a deer got it last time. There's bananas up there. So I was told by the spirit side to triangulate my cameras. So here's the first one over here. I got a Maltese, and that's a black flash, and that's aimed this way. So nice angle would be, oh, there's my other one. Okay, and that is a Moultrie, same model, not a black flash. So that's aimed at the apples there, and the other one is over there. Now my third one is going to be over here. Not quite perfect 90-degree angles. And that is a Bushnell. And you can see they're already going off as we're walking around. That's the Bushnell at high definition. They're all set up for taking pictures and video. They've all been programmed for the correct time. Not synchronized, but programmed. Okay, Alex, what do you think, buddy?
That's good.
Got a communication on the ground. We'll see how everything ends up tomorrow. Okay. I said we go get some shut-eye. We are heading back into the swamp. It's a full moon. Alex is at the wheel.
Hey, what's up? Oh,
What's up?
shit.
What?
These bumps, man. I don't know how
Don't
much
worry
more.
about the bumps. You only got 300 miles in this car.
I don't know how much more this thing can take.
I think it can take it all.
Okay, let's try it.
Don't end up upside down in the swamp. Come on, don't go too fast. You're gonna get us killed. I think you just went past it.
No, I didn't.
Yes, you did.
Oh, son of a bitch.
Oh yeah, you can't go fast in here.
Why?
What do you mean, why? The 7 Indians?
You're the one that always wants me to fucking drive faster.
Those 8-foot tall Indians with the red eyes, the boiling red eyes?
Those things smell horrible.
Piss them off so bad.
The smell of those chips is gonna piss them off.
Is that it?
Yes.
Pull up there.
Gator. I see it.
Go. Don't end us up in the swamp. Getting deeper in the swamp. This is the most desolate part of Florida. More desolate than the Everglades. I'm gonna put my window down. We are going back into the swamp and check our trail cameras. And these trail cameras I've been putting up out here for 25 years, even back when we used to make them ourselves. And just like Les Stroud, just like lots of other Bigfoot researchers and investigators, my bait always comes up missing as well. So we had spiritual contact with Veronica on the other side, and I asked her, what do I need to do to get a picture of Bigfoot? Well, she told me I need to triangulate my cameras. I need 3 of them. So I got 14 cameras. I got 3 of them up, all at different angles, on 2 bags of apples. They've been out there for how long? A month?
Couple
2 months?
weeks. 2 weeks.
Oh, it's been longer than 2 weeks.
Really?
Oh yeah, it's been at least a month. So we're gonna walk back in. I had 2 bags of apples, 8 feet off the ground, the bottoms of them. Put a little rubber Big Bird toy there for him.
And I brought some Native American tobacco to make an offering to the Indian spirits.
Well, Last time you made an offering, you put a freaking, a flute out there, then you took it back. I don't think they're very happy with you. You need to do more than an offering.
What are you suggesting?
I think you should give them your soul.
Okay.
The gods will be pleased.
Do this in remembrance of Marduk.
Who the hell is Marduk? An Anunnaki god?
Yeah.
You mean God?
Second in
There's
command.
only one God.
He was second in command. You better recognize.
Listen. Don't get my head all clustered up with that kind of crap. I'm getting ready to walk into the swamp. I gotta keep my wits about me.
Okay.
Look, can you go a little faster? I'm gonna run out of videotape here. Besides that, how are we supposed to sneak up on something?
Not through here, you don't want to go too fast.
I want you to go real fast so you can piss those Indian spirits off. I want you to see them up close and personal.
You see that moon up there?
It's a full moon. Come on, let's get going.
Some people come in here and they don't go out.
What do you mean?
They come in, but
You need to stop telling that at the ladies at Walmart.
they don't leave. Straight?
Straight.
Okay. Stop sign, I'm not stopping.
Alright, you need to keep your wits about you when we get up in this place.
By the way, I'm not carrying a gun this trip. All I have is a knife. That's all I have.
Alex is actually going into the swamp, 70 miles back into the woods. He has a steak knife in a holster.
That's it. It's my grandfather's. He'll protect me.
Well, you're going to need your spirit guides.
I've got 3. That's all I need.
What the hell is that?
Hold on.
Jesus, it's a brand new car.
Not anymore.
Don't get a flat tire out here. It'll end like a bad B movie.
Yeah, I'll have to go get a spare. I didn't take the spare with me. It's at the dealership still.
What do you mean? You got no spare tire?
Nope. Oh, there we go. Right there. What was that?
What?
Holy shit. You should have seen those eyes, man. I don't know what that was, but it was big. Something just crossed the road right up there. I saw it.
What do you mean you have no spare tire?
I'm just fucking with you.
Oh.
Yeah, something just ran right up here,
Well, I probably got it on tape.
and whatever it was, it had big eyes.
How big were they? Like the size of a saucer?
They were big.
Like softballs?
Yeah, like softball size.
Are they white?
Yeah, they were bright. Well, I guess the light reflecting off them.
Did it look like a sine wave? Like when it was moving, like up and down, like a...
Dude,
Like
I don't
sine
know.
wave?
I saw it like just dart across real fast.
Come on, you go a little bit faster than this. I don't want to run out of battery.
What the fuck was that?
I've seen that before. We've all seen it. It's like it's got really bright white eyes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, you're coming up on it. You're coming up on the entrance. Yeah, rope's down. We left it down last time right here. Okay, stop. Oh, you're gonna get stuck.
Right here.
No, don't go any further. Right here.
Hang on. Calm down.
Jump for snakes as soon as you get out. All right, I'm gonna get my boots on.
Wow. Amazing.
You don't look like a very friendly spider. All right, we are on foot. Watch out for snakes. Oh. What the heck is this in the middle of the trail? I think somebody's trying to tell us something. Look at that big old rotten tree. I never noticed that before.
Yeah, not that bad.
Once you get used to it. What color were the eyes in that creature?
White and yellow.
White and yellow. Well, nothing's walked down this trail in a while. At least a day. Whoa, look at that one. Use my camera to get rid of all the spider webs here. There you go. Damn, there's more of them. I need a stick.
And then you're mowing the stick, boy.
Holy crap. They're everywhere. I really don't think there's any freaking... I'd be surprised if any Bigfoots are out here this time of year. But it is kind of pleasant. It's only like 72.
Nice. Perfect. Okay.
We forgot the bag of apples.
They might as well bring the shit.
Yep.
Wow. That's amazing.
That's a pretty busy spider.
Look how big he is.
There are webs everywhere. All right, we're gonna shut the video off until we're gonna go get the other bag of apples, and we'll continue video when we get back in the woods. What do you think?
Sounds great.
Let's go. Okay. Going back to check on the apples. It's been probably a month. Whoa, spider. Dang it. Don't want that banana spider on you. Make sure you don't touch anything until I videotape it.
Okay.
Okay, we're coming up on the area. I already see something on the ground. Whoa, the apples are all gone. There's one bag. The other bag's completely gone. Whoa.
The toy's gone.
The toy's gone. The toy is completely fucking gone. The candy bar is open. Candy bar's been opened. They didn't touch the potatoes. Where is the rubber ducky? Or the rubber big bird?
There's no note.
The note's gone. The letter's gone. The rocks are gone. Oh my God. Please tell me the cameras are still here. There's one camera. Okay. There's that bag on the ground. What could have taken the freaking toy?
Look at that.
Same thing. Look at that. It's the same thing as last time. Look at the big hole in the bottom. It's like somebody's fingers in there.
Looks like chewed almost.
Well, we'll find out.
It's crazy, man.
Candy bar just opened up. Power bar.
There's a couple of rocks.
There's the rocks right there.
No note anywhere.
Yeah, the paper's completely gone.
Toy's gone.
What would walk off with a frickin'... There's one camera. Where's the other camera? Should be over here. All three cameras are here. There's the black flash. Multi black flash.
If it was, and that other, look at that bag up there. Look at that one. And that one.
Oh, there's the other bag.
Yeah.
If that one's empty, that's gonna blow my mind.
Yes.
It's fucking empty.
No way a deer could reach that.
I am 6'3", and that is 6'7". That's 8.5 feet above my head. Whew, that is unbelievable.
And look, the bottom's still together. What?
How did he get the apples out?
What the hell?
The bag's empty, but there's
a couple little holes.
There's a hole, like something was 10 feet tall, ripped up the hole in the top and lifted it out of the top. Oh my God. Oh, the camera's going off. I just saw it. Well, we already know they're out here. And there's one strong spider web. Okay. I don't see the other cameras going off. But this one's definitely going off, and that's my new Bushnell. Alright. I gotta see these pictures like tonight. Okay, it's on. I'm gonna turn it off. Let it sit for 2 seconds. We want nothing strange to happen to the card. Pull the card out. It's a brand new Lexar 32 gig. Lock the camera up in case it rains. Okay. This is the Lexar. And this is the Bushnell camera. We're going to look at this one first. Where is the rubber big bird?
This is disturbing to me.
Well, it's exactly what we expected.
I wasn't expecting it, honestly.
It was right here in this branch. Look on the ground everywhere. Look at the camera. Look at the bar of candy there. It's just like tore open.
I mean, you think if it was people, they probably would have stolen cameras.
Yeah, there's no people back in here. it would be like an impossibility. I've never seen a trespasser on the property. Did you touch this bag?
No.
Okay, so that's the third bag of apples. I'm going to take this camera. I'm going to take this footage too. I see this camera going off. Okay. It's taking a picture. Wait till it stops so don't screw it up. Okay. Give it 2 seconds. Okay, this one here, and the camera in the middle is the GigaWare 8 gigabyte. Let's just take all three. Okay, this is the one behind the apples. Over there. This one's taking a picture. Come on. Did you bring the other bag of apples?
Yeah.
I think we should just take it back with us.
Yeah.
This is the other 32 gigabyte. The new one. I'm going to put a little scratch there. Peel that corner up a little bit. Okay, this one's got a little corner edge right there. Okay. What do you think?
I'm
Freaked.
just like bugging out a little.
Where is... Oh yeah, that one's pointed right at the bag of apples. If something took that, this camera, this is the good Bushmill. This has to get pictures. It's right there in that tree. And it's pointed right at the apples. Former apples. Okay, let's go.
Yes, let's go.
Where is the rubber ducky? Why wouldn't it take the potatoes?
Man. It's completely gone. Everything. You had a note with rocks on top of the paper.
Well, it's been raining a bunch of times, so. But the rocks have been moved all around. The paper's completely gone.
It's nothing.
But what would take a rubber big bird out of the branches and make off with it? Probably a squirrel.
And how did those apples get out of that bag with there's no like
Yeah.
hole in the bag?
Well, you know, that's what we've been experiencing for a long time. Now that I see less shroud, my own eyes having the same issues, I keep thinking it's just mechanical just malfunctions. Camera's malfunctioning. I wonder if Veronica is still with us. Veronica, can you give us an audible sound to let us know that you're here? Did you hear that?
What was it?
Little thunk thunk. Can you do it again?
It chills all up and down my body.
Heard a couple of thunk thunks. That's about all you get from spirits a lot of times.
Yeah, I just want to get the safety.
There ain't nothing gonna happen to you. They know we're the bringer of apples. After we eat, we're going to have to go sit in the car and look at the computer. Actually, I can use my iPhone. I have a special device now for viewing pictures. Well, people, watchers, this may be the night we get evidence. Okay, let's go eat a couple burgers. This bag right here that had apples in it, it's not ripped from the bottom. If that was a deer, which you would have to be able to stand up 8 feet, which I probably could on some road if there was a huge deer in Florida. But the holes in that bag are actually accessed from the center of the bag, and it looks like there's 2 of them, and they're just big enough to pull an apple out. That's what I see without pulling it down. And it's torn. There's no teeth marks on there. It looks like it's been grabbed with fingers and the plastic is just torn. That side has been grabbed and torn and pulled up, and something reached in there and pulled the apples up and out of the bag, not from the bottom. That's not an animal. I've been hunting for over 40 years in the woods, and I know what animals do, and I've had lots of bait traps out. And those apples have been accessed from the top, as if something pulled the apples out and left some in, which we can see from the photo evidence, so they could come back and get more later, as if they couldn't carry them all. That's my observation of what I'm seeing here. Now the cameras did not catch this bag. They're not in the camera view. So whatever it was, pulled the apples out of there so they could leave the apples in the bag, the remaining ones, whatever it wanted to take. So that is the bag that's in the center of the area here. Here's the other bag still in the tree, and there's the one on the ground. And there is the black flash multi-camera. I don't know if I'm saying that right or not. These are high definition cameras. This one's got a black flash. So that multi-camera was positioned here, still is. I haven't moved it. And there's the bag. We had 3 bananas up here on this branch. The rubber toy, which is a Big Bird toy, was about 3 inches tall, was stuck in the little Y branch here. And that vanished the same time, appearing as it appears it was removed the same time the apples were removed out of this bag. The other bag, which is on the ground, was hanging from this tree, or this tree, one of these here, one of these 2. And you can see that that bag had apples and oranges. What else did it have in there?
Oh, where the bananas were somewhere too.
The bananas were hanging on a twig right there, about 6-7 feet off the ground. And they didn't want the oranges for quite a long time. They just vanished about 5 days ago. So approximately, I haven't looked at all the camera evidence yet, but those were the first ones in the camera evidence to disappear first. And they came back and got these later.
Oh, here's this bag.
So, and then we're looking at the second camera, which is angled over here. And this is the Bushnell model, which is another high definition camera. And it has a range of about 80 feet that was tested by an independent, dang it, big banana spider. Okay. Okay, that one will take a picture up to 80 feet in the dark. And I have it at about, let's see, let me go ahead and measure it. I can step it off as a plumber. 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9, 11, 12, 13. So it's about 35 feet away. And we're going to call this one here 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. This one's about 30 feet away. And that's facing these two bags. Well, it was 3 bags. And where's the third camera at? Oh, third camera?
Is this the one that malfunctioned?
This is the one. I have to look at the pictures, but one of these malfunctioned here. And this one is facing down the trail that way to the bags. And one of them did not work. It only worked for about 20 pictures, which I've seen before. And it caught us putting the camera up. A few pictures after that, and then about a month later, we come to retrieve the camera SD cards. And when we got here, it picked us up as we're coming in. So I don't know. It could be a mechanical. It could be a malfunction in the camera, but these are pretty expensive cameras. These were here about $250 new when I bought them. These are not the kind of cameras you can buy off the shelf in a store. These are high quality cameras.
There were game around here. It would have set it off.
Well, the other cameras picked up
the game
boars and deer.
Right.
But the boars and deer usually don't ever come until the Bigfoot entity, if that's what it is taking the bait. Once the bait's taken, then the animals can come. But it seems like they got the first grabs on it, unless you put corn on the ground. Put corn on the ground. Seems like they don't touch that. But seems like the animals keep their distance until that Bigfoot entity comes in here. So there's one camera there, and another one over there, and another one there. And then this is the target area. So you can see the wrapper of the power bar that I left. It was in the tree, and I believe it might have been up here too with the big bird. I have to look at the pictures. So this is the next morning after we retrieved the cameras, SD cards. So here is the wrapper, and I'm going to put all these in a plastic bag. And you can see it was just torn right open.
What kind of an animal would pull those apples out through the side of the bag like that?
No animal can do that. No. There's no way. A squirrel would not do that and just pull them. A big apple in there, he would not have the leverage to get on that branch and pull that out. And then this bag right here, it's hard to say here. I mean, that's a deer could have did that, but he's the deer and the deer are not going to defeat 3 cameras. One camera can malfunction and not pick it up.
If a raccoon crawled up there and did that, it would have caught it. One of the cameras would have went off.
Well, that one's not really in the view, I believe.
No, you got that one.
Oh, do I?
Yeah.
Okay, I have to look.
Pretty sure.
But anyways, all 3 apple bags, all 3 cameras were defeated with whatever took
that camera would have picked it up.
The fruit out of it. So I'm just laying this out for anybody who wants to challenge this. But I've got over 20 years trail cameras back when we made them ourselves. You couldn't buy them in the store, and they took 35mm film. I've been experiencing this for decades, and I've always attributed it to the cameras malfunctioning just at the right time when something took the bait we left out. So these cameras do not malfunction. If a butterfly flies within, just a butterfly 20 feet away, 30 feet away sets it off. This camera right here took the most pictures. But it's probably because these palms were sitting up there and triggered it, which is good because that camera took a picture about every 2 or 3 minutes. through the whole duration. So there is no malfunctioning of that camera. And there's wild game in some of the pictures I've seen on this event. So all three cameras are working fine. One of them, there's a huge span in the middle, and I'll be able to say which one it is when I match up the cards. That it just malfunctioned. It just was not working. But the time before this, we put 2 cameras up. The other camera we had on this tree was owned by a friend of mine, and it's a high-quality camera made by Moultrie. It's a different model. His camera actually had about 14 photographs of the bag of apples. So he switched it on, and it was placed here and switched on. His camera that was on this tree in the time before this was physically switched off. In other words, the switch, which is just like this one in the same brand, was switched to the off position. There is no trespassing on this property. There's a gate miles away from this parcel in the swamp where you cannot get into this property without a pass key. The tank is so robust. I'll add a picture of it. I mean, it could stop probably a tank. And there's hundreds of thousands of acres out here, and there's just nobody. There's not even electric for miles, 2 miles. So this is what we got here. Nobody comes here except for us. This is why I put the cameras here. So the 2 cameras last time, and the last time we did this experiment, one of them was switched off, the other one was defeated. But what I saw, which I'm going to include that in my little mini documentary on this, is on this ground right here, you can see from where I had the camera over there, you can see what looked like size 18 footprints walking up to the bag of apples, which was not in the camera view. But every time the camera is triggered for what looks like no reason at all, you could see the ground depressing, as if a little 20-pound hog was laying in the spots every 3 feet. Something is walking up to that. That's not conclusive evidence, but that's just more to add to this, of the phenomenon of something physical but cloaked walking through here. If it was a little pig laying every 3 or 4 feet on the ground, you would have seen it picked up in that camera that was over there. And that camera over there on that experiment was this one. And all 3 of these cameras on this experiment we put in about a month ago picked us up installing the cameras on the trees and then leaving the scene, and then hundreds of pictures. And then when we picked it up last night, it showed us picking up the cameras. All 3 of them showed us picking up the cameras. And it actually caught us entering the scene over here with our flashlights. All you see is a flashlight, and that triggered the camera response. So these trail cameras, these are all top-rated cameras, the best ones you can buy. You can't obtain better trail cameras than these. And I believe this is evidence that we're dealing with an entity that can defeat, whether you're standing there observing the scene or it's being videotaped or cameras. And that's the reason why nobody is getting, out of probably hundreds or maybe at least thousands of trail cameras placed all over North America, nobody's getting real evidence. And that's because this entity is coming in cloaked and actually affecting our physical reality. I believe it's a physical entity, but it's cloaked. And I think this will show that. So what we're going to do now is we're going to collect these apple bags that are on the ground, and we're not going to touch them with our hands again. And we're going to put them in a plastic trash bag and seal it. So if anybody, wants them and wants to look at them, so with the pictures we have of them, you can be able to tell which position they were in. So we're not going to touch the bags anymore, except for put them into a plastic bag.
There could be hair on them. You never know. There could be evidence.
We looked over the entire area, and we're still going to search it again. It's getting ready to really come down here with the rain. So we got to collect these cameras, and I just want all the equipment back so we can work on putting this together. But we're going to walk this entire area and look for this little 3-inch tall rubber big bird gift that I gifted this entity that was on the tree, and see if it just wasn't pulled off by a deer and just, you know, deposited somewhere. If it's completely missing from this entire square acre of land in this one area, then I believe that whatever came here to take the apples has it in its possession. But that's just speculating. I mean, it could be something could have carried it off, but we're going to walk this entire area and see if there's anything else here to collect. But anyways, that's where we're at with this. All right, go ahead. Okay. Grab a leaf here, so grab the bag on top. See, as you can see, I mean, it's holding water. The bag naturally has, from the store, has little tiny breather holes in there, but it was accessed from the top, which is even higher. So there's a ripped opening here, and there's a ripped opening there, and this one rips down to here. So whatever it was, it looks like from the other ones too, they just take what they need and they come back for more. But the one bag there was missing all at once, and those were all Macintosh apples, all red apples. The oranges, they seem like that was their second choice. Yep. They like organic apples, by the way. This one is ripped straight down. It almost looks like it was slashed with a knife or fingernails. That's crazy.
And you notice the ground, there's no evidence of any fruit anywhere.
No.
No skins, no cores, no nothing.
I put these 2 potatoes down there, and not even the animals touched those. That's kind of odd, but that's the first time I've ever used potatoes. But that's really bizarre. I mean, in my mind, it looks like I could envision fingernails ripping that open or slicing it. I mean, it's weird. But I'm going to go ahead and touch this bag right here. I want to see if this is like brittle, this bag. No, it's not brittle. That bit, well, yeah, it's brittle to that point. You really got to pull on it. But okay, well. Okay, so that's pretty interesting. Something grabbed that bag. There's no teeth marks on it, so whatever it is, it looked like it had hands and grabbed it and pulled on the bag, pulled down on it. And that bag was over there. And I had that bag set up just like this one, little piece of broken off branch, and it was put right here. So this one looks like, in order to get this one down, it either had to be lifted up and pulled off of there, or they had to actually pull this little mechanism that I put in here for holding it on that little Y branch. But that was pulled out. So put that in there. I'm going to take this one down. Makes a difference if I'm touching this. This one here is just pulled. And just as the last time I did this, the last one, I didn't take those bags. I threw those away. But those bags had perfectly round holes, like dirty holes in the bottom. And the holes looked like they weren't even big enough to pull an apple through. But I'm just going by memory. I'm going to put that in there. I'm going to take the power bar wrapper. Add that to the bag. What else can we put in there? And let's see, I think that's about it. Alright, I'm going to tie this in a knot. It's funny how every time it's like a low pressure system moves in. Okay. Okay, so we're gonna need to walk this area some more. We got to find that little. I mean, it can't be hard to see. It's bright yellow. The rubber big bird. But 3 cameras were defeated here, so definitely, unless it fell out and a hog grabbed it. But I had the pictures of the wild game, and we would see. I got to look through every picture. There's hundreds of them to see if one of them's got it in his mouth. And these cameras, by the way, are set to take pictures every 2 seconds. You can set them so they're triggered by motion and heat. These 2 cameras here, the Moultries, they have a range of probably about 50 feet. I think it says 75 feet when you buy them, but I don't think that's accurate. But reliably, I put these about 30 feet away from the subject. That Bushnell camera that's over here, this has a tested range by independent testers. They tested about 6 cameras, and that's the reason why I just picked this one up. That's a brand new camera, and that one has a range of 80 feet in the dark, which is pretty amazing. So that was my deciding factor to get that one. And these are all high quality cameras. So this one I put the farthest away. So I was going to rely on this. I'm relying on that one there for my best evidence. But it seems like I got to look at the pictures, but it looks like the ones with the light phenomenon in it came from this camera, which is facing toward the 2 bags of apples, and the other bag of apples is right there. And you'll see that there's balls and streaks of light going across the camera, going across the 2 frames, and then there's like a column of light that came down right here. And I've got lots of pictures I can go through that have that phenomenon. And it's funny that phenomenon showed up right when the apples vanished. You've got weeks and weeks of pictures before and after, and during the event, all 3 cameras had some type of an anomaly. Dark pictures, or this crazy light phenomenon as it was happening. And I'm going to put all that together and show it as in a sequence. I mean, that right there is evidence with itself that you got 3 of the top quality cameras that are malfunctioning at the same exact time that I'm going on this bag of apples here is our target apples. That was the first ones to disappear on film. And it just disappears in one day. The cameras are taking pictures constantly, and then there's a big span where it's gone. The bag of apples is empty, and the toy is missing off the tree, and the power bar, all at the same time, without catching a single animal in those frames. And all 3 of these cameras are close enough to catch a squirrel at that range. So a squirrel would have a hard time pulling those apples out, dropping it on the ground, carting them off. So that is evidence. Especially anybody who's been dealing with trail cameras for any length of time, you see that 3 not 2 cameras, not 1 camera. Most people use 1. I've been using 2 for quite a long time. The tip that I got, which actually came from, we do paranormal investigations since at least for about 13 years now. We've flown all over. We've been on the 6 o'clock news a couple times, two years in a row, our team. And being out here at this property back in '93 with the events that I've had happen got me into doing paranormal research. So that this is evidence. This is evidence that something else is happening here besides animals taking bait away. Because these cameras always catch the game. Of course, if it doesn't catch again, you don't know if it doesn't catch it. But with 3 of them set up, that discounts any idea that there is a camera malfunction on all 3 of them. That just can't happen. So, we'll let the sequence of pictures when I put it together on this video, and that'll speak for itself. So this should set a new standard for everyone getting evidence using a 3-camera trap to collect this type of evidence. 1 camera's not evidence. 2 cameras, that leaves a lot of questions. I mean, that could make a lot of people believe that use these cameras all the time that something strange is happening. But 3 of them tells us that there's something that can physically affect this environment that we live in, this reality, but cloak itself. I'm not saying it's interdimensional. I'm saying that this is, from what I believe, what I've been seeing over time, is I believe in what other people's testimonies, like Native American Indians, saying, well, Sasquatch could use its magic to get away. It's a physical entity, but it has an ability to cloak itself. And being a paranormal investigator, we talk to spirits quite often. And there's a contact on the other side. Her name's Veronica. And I ask her questions about extraterrestrials and Bigfoot. I got on the topic of Bigfoot, and I asked her, I said, what do I need to do to get a photograph of Bigfoot? Why is he not showing up on thousands and thousands of trail cameras in place every day? And she said, we used a spirit board to talk to her, which we use almost every day. It's the best way to collect evidence and to communicate with the other side. The spirit board, she told me that what you need to do is add a 3rd camera to your camera trap and then angle them. So I angled them in 3 different directions here. And be patient. If you be patient, you'll get what you're looking for. Because she described it as Bigfoot as being an ape. I know a lot of people are split on that. My thinking is it's an ancient human held in reserve. And that's why the DNA shows up as unidentified human. But she claims that it's just a big ape. Well, you can look at it, people have seen a testimony, it looks like a big ape. So I don't know if it's her observation or it actually is, but that's neither here nor there. But she told me that it's an old entity, and her words were, you would know these tricks too if you've been around that long. So that matches up with what the evidence that we got here. That this is an entity that can affect whatever is observing it when it wants to, whether it's videotape or pictures, anything that's observing it, it can defeat that. That kind of makes me look back at there's a scientific experiment called the double slit experiment. You might want to look that up. And that is an experiment that's done by scientists where the mere act of observing with the human eye, or even videotaping the phenomenon of shooting, I believe it's light protons or electrons through these slits in a wall going on the other side, the matter will actually change. I call it intelligent energy. It can change by the mere act of somebody observing it. And when it's not being observed, the evidence shows that the light that is actually in the environment is behaving differently. So the mere act that somebody is observing Bigfoot, I guess, if it wants to and it's close. I mean, a lot of people have seen it distance away or looking and mimicking it. But the mechanical equipment we're using to photograph it, that would explain, in my mind, why we are not getting this phenomenon on any digital or any camera media, whether it's video or photographic film, because this is what this entity can do. It can actually affect the environment and defeat whatever it is that is observing it. So I think when I put it all together, I think I'll leave no doubt that that's exactly what's happening here.